The Wii was a big success for us here at Nintendo HQ, but it's time to move on to the next big thing. So I would like to propose the Nintendo Wii U. Yay! This will surely keep us in first place forever. Well, that didn't go as expected. Does anyone else have any other ideas? I have a crazy idea, sir, so please just hear me out on this. What if we took the Wii U gamepad and just cut off the edges here and turn them into tiny little controllers and then just resold that as if it was something completely different? There's no way that will work. Are you insane? Holy shit, that worked! My childhood consoles were the Nintendo 64 and the GameCube, so it was a huge surprise to me when I learned years later that they were both complete failures. I always saw Nintendo as the main gaming company with no other standing a chance. Sure, you may have a built-in DVD player and be the highest selling console of all time, but can you play Glover? Shit. The Wii revived my belief that Nintendo was far and away the best gaming company in the world and definitely became the most mainstream at the time. With such an insane success of the Wii, they would be stupid to move away from the brand with their next console. PlayStation did numbering and Xbox added 360, so Nintendo will surely do something similar.
So today, welcome to the world of Wii U.
Me?
I remember this day like it was yesterday.
What the fuck?
Good times, and made me contemplate if I should still be a Nintendo fan. Luckily, I'm still here, but I'd be lying if they didn't push me to the edge a couple times. I'm not gonna go into a full in-depth talk of why the Wii U was a failure, as I've made a video on that years ago. So make sure to go watch that video so you can access the rest of this video. Okay, now that you've all watched it, let's talk about the Wii U's successor. It felt like only a year or two after the Wii U came out, we were already hearing rumors about the next Nintendo home console. Always a good sign when your console has like 2 good games and we're already talking about what's next. We kept hearing about the Nintendo NX and saw so many rumored leaks and prototypes for this console. If this is what we got, I would have just stuck with the Wii U. I vividly remember I got my news for the next console through the Breath of the Wild development. They kept saying how they had new ideas and kept pushing it back, and it eventually became obvious that it was going to be a launch title for the next system. So I was thinking,
2015, this'll be the year. 2016 will be the year. Please just let it be 2017.
The new system was revealed on October 20th, 2016, and it looked like an improved Wii U. I had many questions about how this system was going to be after the lack of quality we received on the Wii U, but I had some optimism. We knew Breath of the Wild was coming, and the idea of being able to play in handheld or on the TV was a super cool extension of the Wii U gamepad. The Wii U was basically like an HD DS on the TV, just without the good games. But this was like the Wii, Wii U, and Game Boy Advance all put into one. Plus, they showed a brand new open world 3D Mario game and a new Mario Kart. Oh wait, sorry, that's just a port of Mario Kart 8, but I'm sure that will just hold us over until the next Mario Kart in a couple years. We got more details about the Switch at the beginning of 2017 with an official launch date of March 3rd, 2017. I can't wait to get my hands on this and all of the launch titles. Breath of the Wild is good at least. 1-2 Switch as a launch title was supposed to be the Wii Sports or Nintendo Land for the system, but they missed one key feature of those 2 games. Those games were fun. One of them was the most innovative launch title of all time, and the other was Wii Sports, so it had big shoes to fill, and it fell way short. It's not a bad game. Breath of the Wild, though, was the perfect launch title for the Switch. Yeah, it also launched for the Wii U on the same day, but I'll only slightly judge you if you bought that version instead of the Switch version. What else can I say about this game that hasn't already been said? Absolutely nothing. This is one of the greatest games of all time, and there are countless reviews on YouTube all about it. So I will just say this. Make sure to play this game before Tears of the Kingdom unless you want to be disappointed. Tears of the Kingdom is so big that it makes Breath of the Wild feel small, so you definitely should play this one first. Plus, you gotta meet this asshole, so you can't skip Breath of the Wild. The first year the Switch gave us so many quality titles, it set a standard for what was to come. There were some solid ports like Minecraft and Skyrim, which are playable on nearly every console these days, so they would have been stupid to not bring them over. The Xbox versions are superior in my opinion, but still 2 of the most well-renowned games of the last decade and a half, so it gave Nintendo fans an opportunity to finally play them. Then we also got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which, if we're being unbiased, is the 3rd best Mario Kart game ever. There's no shame in being worse than Double Dash and DS, and I'm definitely not biased since the first ones I played were Mario Kart 64 and Super Mario Kart. There's no way I'm nostalgic for Double Dash and DS. This game is great and probably the most polished in the series, but I got sick of it after a couple months. And the DLC is cool, but I personally would have preferred a whole new game. Does that make me a loser for rather having paid $70 for a new game instead of $25 for pretty much the same content as a new game? No. Having paid for the DLC on the Wii U version, then buying the Switch version with the DLC made me a loser. We did get some brand new games the first year too with a brand new IP in ARMS. I'm gonna be controversial here, but this was a really good new IP for the Switch. This game was a lot of fun and a super unique take on a fighting game. We knew we'd eventually get a new Smash Bros, and we'll get to that, but to hold us over, this was a nice change of pace. It's not as good as Smash Bros, but this is like that hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby meme. Obviously Smash is better, but ARMS can still be fun for a little while, until it doesn't stop coughing and you need to shut it up.
But my lawyers advised me not to finish this joke.
ARMS did get representation in Smash with Min Min, so I think that was enough recognition since I doubt we're gonna get a sequel. What would they even call it? Legs? Along with ARMS, we also got a sequel to one of Nintendo's newer IPs from the Wii U with Splatoon 2. Now, this is what we call a good sequel. It just takes everything from the original and makes it better, including the story mode, and even added to it with DLC. This is one of the best new ideas Nintendo has had, and clearly successful with how much publicity they give the games. I cannot wait until we get the next game on the next console. Well, that was unexpected. I was not expecting a third game on the Switch, as it felt like Splatoon 2 had just come out. But then I thought about it and realized it had been like 6 years and started to contemplate what I've been doing with my life. Just as Splatoon 2 improved on the original, Splatoon 3 did the same for 2 and is easily the definitive and best version of the series. I'm sure we'll eventually get a Splatoon 4 on the next console, or maybe I'm wrong and the Switch will have another 6 years and we'll get Splatoon 4 when I'm 32. My god, I'm getting old. And 2017 didn't end there. We got Sonic Mania, one of the best modern Sonic games out there. Probably because it's a classic Sonic style, and the modern style game we got was Hide the Children. I genuinely would love another Sonic Mania style game, and I am intrigued on how Sonic Superstars is gonna be. It looks promising, but also doesn't seem to allow for online multiplayer, so we're just never allowed to be happy. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle was another release that I will be 100% honest, I thought it was gonna be dog shit. I have never been more wrong, except for when I said all Fire Emblem games suck. This game was one of the most fun tactical games I have ever played, and genuinely was happy to see get a sequel years later. The sequel is one of the best Mario games on the Switch, which is kind of funny considering with how many of them we got on the system. The one with the annoying rabbits I want to punt off a mountain is better than the sports titles. Speaking of sports titles, we got almost every one with tennis, golf, and soccer. Tennis was solid and just a fun game. Golf was a lot of fun, but kinda got old after a while. And soccer was the biggest disappointment of the entire system. I just made a whole video about the Strikers trilogy, so go watch that if you want to hear about how much it made me sad. What makes me even more sad is that we don't have a baseball game. Just give me Super Sluggers HD and I will die happy. But aside from those side Mario games, we got the main 3D Mario we've been waiting for since Galaxy 2. Super Mario Odyssey is one of the best Mario games I've ever played and miles better than 3D World.
We definitely don't need you anymore when we've got this.
Odyssey brought us back to the golden age of Mario, being able to do nearly any moon in any order just as we could back in Super Mario 64 and to an extent in Mario Sunshine, but not Mario Galaxy. Don't let anyone fool you, Galaxy is a 2D Mario disguising the flagpoles as stars. Doesn't mean it isn't still the best 3D Mario game, but Odyssey brought me back to my childhood. Super Mario 64 was the first game I ever played, and I felt like a kid all again, playing this for hours upon hours to 100% it. I think I pissed off my college roommates with the sounds coming from my room at 1 a.m.
I don't even want to know.
This would have been a great last major game for the year since it came out at the end of October, but Nintendo had one last banger to give us. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, also known as how the f*** did this dweeb pull both of these women? Xenoblade Chronicles is one of my favorite games of all time, but it didn't quite reach that level until I played the Definitive Edition. I started Xenoblade 2 a couple of months before the Definitive Edition was revealed, and I immediately stopped to replay the first. Once I completed it, I jumped right into the sequel, and I will say, it's not as good, but it's still a lot of fun. The stories of Xenoblade games are what set them apart from most RPGs out there, and this story is interesting. I'm not going to say too much since I'm sure I'll make a video on it eventually, but I recommend everyone plays it. You don't have to play the first game before playing it, however, I would make sure you play this and the original before playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Yeah, we technically have the entire Xenoblade franchise on the Switch, except for the most underrated game in the series. Port Xenoblade Chronicles X to the Switch, you cowards! Xenoblade 3 is again much of the same with a fantastic story and great characters and beautiful world to explore. These are 3 of the best RPGs you will ever play, so if you like long games that take more than 50 hours to complete, these are for you. But if your attention span has been destroyed by YouTube Shorts and TikTok, then here's Puyo Puyo Tetris. 2017 was a phenomenal year for the Switch and demolished the entire Wii U's library. And if you thought 2017 was good, the Switch just kept releasing banger after banger after banger, even to this day. 2018 didn't have as strong of a start, with Bayonetta 2 being ported over, which was a good idea as it was trapped on the Wii U and more people deserve to play it.
But I'm just saying though, Xenoblade Chronicles X.
We got a brand new Kirby game in March with Star Allies and was just a classic Kirby game for the system. Not anything that blew our minds, but still fun and helped pass the time with not a lot of major titles early in the year. And they kept the multiplayer aspect from some of the other home console Kirby games, which is something I think needs to stay. And then we got the biggest gimmick game from the entire console, Nintendo Labo. I remember seeing the trailer for this and just thinking,
I don't get it.
It's just cardboard, but you could build and create different things to use for little games or to implement them in other games like Mario Kart or Breath of the Wild. I can see the appeal of this for a kid, but that's the problem. I was almost 21 when this came out, so I just looked at it and said, I don't give a shit. I think I played with it for maybe 2 hours total. It's not for me, but if you liked it, then I'm happy for you. It's just not for me, but I would like to get my money back, okay? Thanks. We then got a new Donkey Kong game. Psych. Tropical Freeze was a sequel to Donkey Kong Country Returns and was an amazing 2D platformer on the Wii U, so of course they had to bring it over to the Switch. The problem was they barely updated anything and sold it for more than they originally sold it for on the Wii U. It sold initially for $50, but then was marked down to $20 after a couple years, so they said f*** it and marked it back up to $60 for the Switch. You basically paid $40 for the option to play in handheld and to play as Funky Kong. I take it all back, worth it. We do need a new Donkey Kong game though. It would be nice to have a 3D game like Donkey Kong 64, but realistically, it'll probably be a 2D game. I'll take anything though, as I just want to play with my favorite ape. Don't take that out of context. And then, the unthinkable happened. Pokemon released a home console game for the first time for the 5th time. This was the first true mainline Pokemon game on a home console, and was a remake of Pokemon Yellow with Pokemon Go aspects thrown in for catching Pokemon. This isn't the best game in the series, but it is the best looking Switch Pokemon game. That's not hard to do, to be fair. I had so much fun playing this the first time and played this for hours and hours shiny hunting, as it was the first game we could see the shinies in the overworld. For that alone, this game deserves praise, and the fact that they got rid of that in Sword and Shield was the worst decision they ever made, aside from the 100 other shitty decisions they've made over the years. And then to end 2018, we got the game everyone was waiting for, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, the game which still gives me hate comments to this day because of my speculation videos. I've tried defending myself over the years, but at this point, people aren't going to listen and they don't care, so this is the last time I'm ever going to say this. Those videos were for the base roster of the game, not counting DLC, so technically, I wasn't wrong with any of those choices. I even made a video predicting the second wave and correctly predicted Steve and Sora, and also Byleth since that video came up before they were revealed, so I actually have a pretty good track record.
But who am I kidding? None of the people that ever left those hate comments are even going to watch this video, so why do I even care?
This was, no pun intended, the ultimate Smash Bros. Game. Every character ever, with levels from every game and a slew of new characters in the base game and DLC, plus incredible controls that rivaled Melee.
I said rivaled, not better!
The only thing I would improve about Ultimate is the story mode. World of Light isn't bad, but Subspace Emissary is millions of times better, and it would have been so cool to see a similar style with every character from the series. This game really got me back into making videos again, and I thank it for that. I didn't make any videos for nearly 4 years, came back to continue Let's Plays, but then Ultimate was revealed, so I started speculation videos, which transitioned into reviews. I'm sure some of you wish I still made Let's Plays, but at most it's like 5 of you, so I think you'll survive. And maybe I'll start them again on my second channel someday, who knows. 2019 gave us a return to quality titles, as 2018 was basically Smash Ultimate's year without much else. Which means we're gonna start with something good. Oh, fuck off. I've been on record saying the new Super Mario Bros. Games are boring and repetitive and they don't need to exist after the DS and the Wii versions. So porting over the 4th one, which people were already sick of at this point, was the stupidest decision they could have made. It did give us Bowsette though, so that gave all the lonely gamers out there something to do over the weekend. We got a new Yoshi's game with Crafted World, which I thought was going to be a great sequel to Woolly World. It was fun. That's all I can really say about it. Woolly World was way better, but I also think Woolly World is maybe the best Yoshi game out there aside from the original Yoshi's Island, so that was a hard bar to meet. Super Mario Maker 2 was the next Mario game to come out, which was a perfect sequel to the original on the Wii U. We don't count the 3DS version in this house. It was more of the same with new additions and better online component with multiplayer. Except they made this big deal about how there were going to be more styles added, and the only one they ever added was 3D World at launch. Why the hell is there still a spot to add here? It's been 4 years. I think we're not getting anything at this point. Although if they do add a Super Mario Wonder style after that game comes out, that would be funny and I wouldn't be mad at it. But knowing Nintendo, they'd charge $20 for that, so I'll never play it.
I lied.
But of all the games that came out this year, the best is the one that I never would have thought before it came out. Fire Emblem Three Houses is a stellar game with one of the best stories and characters of any game I've ever played. I have put over 300 hours into this game from differing storylines and DLC. It made me completely change my opinion on Fire Emblem games, and I will never talk bad about about them again. The exploration around the monastery and character interactions probably tripled the game length, and the music was so good even if they repeated the same 5 songs like 100 times. Who cares, because they're all amazing. Link's Awakening then got a remake in one of the most unique art styles of any game I've played. It was very faithful to the original, which is good since it was amazing, but it also was a Game Boy game, so it was dated and needed a graphical upgrade. Not the best 2D Zelda game, but for sure a fun experience, even if it was overpriced. Nearly every remake is overpriced on the Switch though, since Nintendo knows we're all stupid and will still buy it. Dragon Quest XI was another phenomenal release and is one of the most gorgeous art styles of any game on the Switch. Plus, it's a great entry title for people who have never played a Dragon Quest game before. Another game to put hundreds of hours into, so between this and Three Houses, you could spend like a whole year just between them. But maybe don't, because then you wouldn't get to play Luigi's Mansion 3, which came out a month later. I know I literally just said this about the last 2 games I mentioned, but this is genuinely the best looking game on the system. Go look at a video on YouTube in full HD and you will realize just how much better it looks than anything else. And the puzzles and ambiance are the best in the whole series. You can play this without playing the first 2 games, and it's considerably better than them. It's not an easy game and is exactly what I wanted. If only Luigi was an alt color for Luigi in Smash Ultimate, then I'd be happy, but I can only dream for now. And to end the year, we got to hear grown men complain about a tree for 3 years. Pokemon Sword and Shield were the first new generation on a home console. They were fun games, but not the quality we all wanted. I don't mind the lack of a national dex, but these games have a boring story and are dirt easy. Dynamax was a stupid gimmick and even worse than Z moves. Then they added DLC, which was fun but also broken. Just a subpar game that I put the least hours into of any Pokemon game. I'd rather play Hey You Pikachu. At least that game doesn't pretend to piss me off, it just does it unapologetically. 2020 is a year we'll all remember for all the wrong reasons. But luckily, right as lockdown was starting, we got the perfect game to play while locked in our houses. Animal Crossing New Horizons is the best Animal Crossing game ever released and gives me so much unrealistic expectations for how to buy a house.
I will give you 100,000 bells for this house. Are you fucking high? Yes. But would 10,000 bells sweeten up the deal and make it work? Just for that, I'm crashing the housing market so you'll never get a house. Son of a bitch.
People who have never even played an Animal Crossing game before put hours into this. And it was a lot of fun to play, even though half of everyone were a bunch of filthy cheaters and forwarded their clocks. You were all losers and will never get into heaven. Then Xenoblade Definitive Edition came out, which again is amazing, so go play it right now. And then out of nowhere, we got a new Paper Mario game. This was so random. The trailer was just uploaded to YouTube and Twitter on a random day with a release date just 2 months later. I love Paper Mario and I was happy to see this other than the battle system that made me cry in a corner, but overall it was a solid game. Still though, why do they just hate referencing the first 2 Paper Mario games? We all love them, yet Nintendo thinks we love Sticker Star and Color Splash for some reason. I like Color Splash, it's not bad, but Sticker Star can jump off a cliff. It wasn't the only Mario game we got this year, as in September we got Super Mario 3D All-Stars. I was so excited to see this and then I played it. I made a video on this and my thoughts, but I'll keep it simple and say it was so fucking stupid they released this for only a limited time. It's not good enough to have a limited release, and they should have added Mario Galaxy 2. We got a couple of ports and remakes throughout the year too, with Pikmin 3 Deluxe, which was a great port, and we needed some kind of Pikmin on the system. And then we got Pokemon Mystery Dungeon DX, which was a great remake of the original on the Game Boy Advance. I love this game, and I hope this means that we might get an Explorers of Time or Darkness remake eventually. That is my favorite Pokemon game ever, and the most emotional game in the series too. I am ready to be broken again. The last major game we got was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. This was marketed as a Warriors game that went over the story of the great calamity that caused the events of Breath of the Wild. Such a great idea, as we all wanted to see more of what happened. But what did we get instead? A completely different story with some time travel bullshit that caused an alternate timeline. Why can't we just get what we want? I wanted to see the villains win for once. That would have been so much better than this shit. It was a fun game, but the story was stupid, and this game is stupid for existing. But that was really it for 2020. There obviously were a lot of other smaller games throughout the year, but nothing that would blow you away. It's understandable because of the pandemic, and it at least kept our expectations in check for the next year. 2021, the year of no real system sellers, but still a lot of quality games. Starting off with a 3D World port, but it did have a new mode added called Bowser's Fury. I could argue that it was better than the main story. And I will. This was so much better, it's not even funny. This just shows 3D World should have been an open world game from the start and not a bunch of small levels with flagpoles. Then we got Bravely Default 2 and Monster Hunter Rise, which are 2 games that don't get nearly enough recognition. Monster Hunter Rise specifically is probably my favorite Monster Hunter game and the easiest one for newcomers to get into. That is one thing I have to give credit to the Switch for most of its games. Most of them do a really good job of helping newcomers get into the series without ditching veteran players. Another that did that really well was New Pokemon Snap. This should have been on the Wii U as it would have been perfect with the gamepad, but thank gosh it wasn't because it would have sold like 5 copies and 4 of them would have been me. It's not anything crazy since it's literally just a new Pokemon Snap, but it is a nice change of pace from the mainline games. Plus it's gorgeous, and if Generation 9 looked like this, it would have been the greatest game of all time. We will get to those games though. We got some other great smaller games like Game Builder Garage and Miitopia, which again don't have tons of replay value to me, but deserve recognition for being pretty fun. Does feel weird to still call them Miis on the Switch though. And then, we got the game I had been waiting a decade for. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. Fun game, but definitely not the perfect Monkey Ball game. I'd rather play the old games over this any day, but it gave me some hours of fun. Oh yeah, and we also got Skyward Sword HD, just my favorite game ever at the time, no big deal. We even got a new WarioWare, which was fun, but why do I feel like we get these way too often these days? I just want a new Wario World. Is that too much to ask for?
Yes, it is.
Then we got the best game of the year. Skyward Sword doesn't count since it's a remake. Metroid Dread. This was the first 2D Metroid game we had gotten in years, and I'm gonna be the one to say it. I think this is the best 2D Metroid game aside from maybe Metroid Fusion. The fact that this game was in development over a decade prior and was cancelled just to be brought back casually and be maybe the greatest Metroid game ever is something I never thought I'd see. But I also never thought I'd see Metroid Prime 4 still not being released in 2023 even after being revealed in 2018, so nothing this franchise does should surprise me at this point. The exploration and puzzles in the open world with the constant worry that you're going to be hunted and murdered makes it the most nerve-wracking and suspenseful title in the series. This was a perfect Halloween release, which is why it came out one day after my birthday. Good way to start the month to prepare us for the major Halloween release on October 29th, Mario Party Superstars. This game is perfect for spooky season as it's horrific how little content it has. Barely any boards, barely any characters, no DLC, at least the minigames were good. It was so cool to see some of the boards from my childhood as I played the first 2 Mario Parties countless times as a kid, but you couldn't even put the characters and costumes from the Mario Party 2 boards? That was the best part of that game. To end the year, we got 2 more major releases. First with Shin Megami Tensei 5.
Bless you.
This follows the trope of every Japanese RPG. It's a bunch of high school age characters who try to f*** each other and end up fighting God. No wonder I love RPGs so much. It is a fun game, and if you enjoy the Persona series, I guarantee you will enjoy this as well. And then the final major game of the year was the Pokemon remakes we had been waiting for since 2014 when ORAS came out. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I can only describe these games in one word. Shit. These were the worst remakes I have ever seen. They tried so hard to be faithful that it just felt like a DS game with broken controls. Things just blipped in and out of existence. The items and Pokemon available were horrible just like the originals, even though they could have just used platinums to make it better. And then the game is just so easy. Except for the Elite Four. I was happy they actually made it a bit of a challenge. Although people tried to say it was like insanely difficult when I definitely disagree. I beat it on my first try and it wasn't easy, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't this bullshit gauntlet like so many people try to say. Doesn't mean the rest of the game wasn't bullshit though. Do not waste $60 on this game. Just buy Platinum and save yourself the headache of playing this garbage. It's about the same price, if not a little more expensive, but it's also a way better game, so it's worth that price tag. After that show of a game, hopefully 2022 can start off on a high note. Oh hey look, another Sinnoh Pokemon game. Wait, it's open world? You can catch Pokemon in the overworld? It's a unique story without gyms? Quillfish evolves! I don't give a damn about the graphics. You can talk crap about them all you want. The graphics don't make a game good. They can make a bad game fun to look at, but if the gameplay isn't fun, then what's the point? This was one of the most fun Pokemon games I've ever played and was a phenomenal change from the usual Pokemon formula. I hope we can get more games in this style, specifically about Old Unova and the original Dragon with Kyurem, Reshiram, and Zekrom. But if that means they'd give us a shitty black and white remake like they did with Diamond and Pearl, then I take that back. Ever since Breath of the Wild, nearly every game was starting to shift to this open world idea as we just saw with Legends Arceus. So why not make a 3D Kirby game while we're at it? Forgotten Land is the best Kirby game on any home console in my opinion, and they made the 2D formula transition to the third dimension perfectly. Every level is fun to explore with tons of secrets that aren't always easy to find, and the upgrading abilities was a nice touch. I hope we don't completely move away from 2D Kirby games, as I think Kirby will always fit that style, but it would be cool if they could alternate between the two styles. Mario got a couple of games in 2022 with Super Mario Strikers Battle League, and Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope.
That's more like it!
We also got more of the DLC packs for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe released throughout the year, which again, couldn't we just get a Mario Kart 9? The only good thing about this is that we don't have to buy another Mario Kart without a subtitle. I could only take the pain for so long. We also got the final games for multiple trilogies. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Splatoon 3, as I mentioned earlier, were amazing entries in their series. Splatoon 3 being the best of its franchise and Xenoblade 3 being the second best. But we also got a game that was revealed years prior that was almost falling into the Metroid Prime 4 territory. Fortunately though, this game still had had a pulse. Can't say the same for Metroid. Bayonetta 3 is such a great game, and although it isn't my favorite in the franchise, it's still a hell of a game. I'd say it was worth the wait, and hopefully got more people into the franchise other than just staring at her ass in Smash Bros.
I have a girlfriend, so I will not be making a cutaway joke.
Some other titles we got throughout the year were Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, which is a Warriors game take on Three Houses. Not as good as the main game, but also I don't like Warriors games as much as full-on RPGs, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. And then Nintendo Switch Sports. It's Wii Sports, but worse! It's still a lot of fun and a good time, but the magic of playing these sports with motion controls just doesn't hit the same as it did in 2006. Is it because I was 9 back then and now I'm 25, almost 26? No, I'm still mentally 9, so it has to be the game, not me. If you never got to experience Wii Sports though, definitely pick this up as it's the closest you can get. Plus there's online play, which is something I wish Wii Sports had, but considering how bad the Wi-Fi was on the Wii, I probably would still be waiting for it to connect to this day. And last but certainly not least, we ended the year with a new Pokemon generation, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. These are pretty polarizing, not as polarizing as Sword and Shield, but these games had some issues. The graphics weren't the best, the game lagged, and there were tons of glitches people ran into constantly. Yet with all of that said, this is the most fun I've ever had playing a Pokemon game. It was the first fully open world mainline game, and every game needs to be like this going forward, just with some improvements. They need to scale the levels of the trainers because what's the point of open world if I can't really fight the gym leaders in any order? I'm just excited to play the DLC because I want more and more of this game. I already have put more hours into this game than any Pokemon title since maybe Generation 4, and probably will only be behind Generation 3 by the end of its life. I only say that since I've played the 5 games of Generation 3 over 100 times, and that's no exaggeration. We finally reached 2023, and the year isn't over, but this might be the best year for the system, which is crazy since it's been over 6 years now. We started out on a high note with a new Fire Emblem, which I had to try out after Three Houses. It was a lot of fun, and I'm really glad I got into the series, but it just wasn't the same as Three Houses. The story and characters didn't have the same camaraderie and charm. The battling was pretty comparable, but the characters are what made me love Three Houses, so I hope we can get back to that with the next Fire Emblem. The number of remakes or remasters we've gotten this year feels like an insane amount looking back at it. We started with the best one, Metroid Prime Remastered. This is still the best Metroid game ever made, so being able to play it on the Switch with great controls and upgraded graphics was great. I think we all expected it or the trilogy to get ported over with Metroid Prime 4 getting delayed over and over, so I'm glad more people will get to experience this. And you know what this did right? They didn't price them at $60. They were only $40, which is something every remaster should be since it's an older game. So I'm sure Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe will be too. Why do I even bother? I don't even understand why this remaster happened, to be honest, but the $60 price tag makes it make even less sense. It's a fun game, don't get me wrong, but I don't understand why Nintendo keeps making games cost that much and then they're so against emulation. They're just money hungry, and they need to understand they aren't supporting their customers while then releasing subpar emulation for $60. Good thing Advance Wars was 2 games technically, so the $60 price tag somewhat makes sense. Plus, these were full complete remakes from the ground up of games nearly 2 decades old, so I'll give them a pass on this one. And the game is also just fun as hell, so if you feel like the money you spent was worth it, then it's not overpriced. And what was also not overpriced, the Pikmin 1 and 2 bundle. This made it so every game on the series is on the Switch. We don't count that bullshit. It's a total of $50 for 2 full games which were fully optimized for the system and honestly are great ports. This is more than worth the price tag and one of the best deals on the eShop. It was hilarious to see people who had never played a Pikmin game before seeing how brutal these games can be despite their cute appearances. And it was released just early enough to hold people over until the next major title, Pikmin 4. There was another game that was released between all of these remasters, but first we have to talk about the real game of the year. Pikmin 4 feels like a perfected version of Pikmin 2, just how Pikmin 3 feels like a perfected version of the original. I love how much the dungeons add to the game, and even though the Dandori battles make me contemplate life, they add a real challenge. There's enough content in the game to make a whole video on, which I may do eventually, so I don't want to say too much, especially since it's such a new game. Just buy it and play it. You will not be disappointed. Okay, and about 2 months earlier we got a little game called Tears of the Kingdom. It was alright, I guess. I mean, I only made my longest video ever at the time about it, and how it's my new favorite game of all time. You all know it's amazing, so I don't have to tell you. But by some crazy chance you don't know anything about it, just go watch my other video. You'll see why it's being called the greatest game of all time. And right smack dab in the middle between these 2 Goliath games, we got a 1-2 Switch sequel. Who the fuck asked for this? This was the most pointless sequel ever made. I don't have any comments or even jokes to say. This game was just bad. We still have numerous major releases left this year, which we are all waiting for. A sequel to Detective Pikachu, which I still don't know why this exists. The original was okay, but I'm not expecting anything insane out of this. We're getting another WarioWare too. I feel like I just mentioned early in the video, like we're getting these non-stop, and this kinda proves my point. I'm sure some people will love it out there, so I'm not gonna hate on it. Sonic Superstars is coming out, and even though it's not a Switch exclusive, I'm sure it will sell best on the Switch. Sega fans have mostly bit the bullet and just committed to being a Nintendo fan. Not much better than Sega though these days. And then we are ending with 2 more Mario games. Super Mario Wonder, finally a 2D Mario game that looks like it has passion and soul put into it. This looks like it's gonna be the best 2D Mario game in years, and that's not just because Mario can turn into one of my favorite animals. Just please Nintendo, let this mean the new Super Mario Bros. Series is dead, until we get a newer Super Mario Bros. Game on the next Switch and I'll jump off my balcony. And then the game I am most excited for, Super Mario RPG Remake. Wow, the RPG fan is more excited for the Mario RPG instead of the platformer. Who would have guessed? I love the original on the Super Nintendo, and people need to appreciate the Paper Mario Origins as this is technically the precursor to that franchise. The graphics look gorgeous, the music is just as good as before, and this will mean that everyone is going to start hoping for Geno and Smash again, so that'll be fun. We know we are going to be getting more quality titles over the next year or maybe even 2, and I cannot wait to see what they have in store. Especially that Princess Peach game, that might be the best game of the year when it comes out. The Switch has become Nintendo's most accessible console, and in my opinion, their best too. The variety of different titles from different franchises that all hit their marks is incredible, plus the options through Nintendo's online services gives you no shortage of games to play. I don't even know how Nintendo can improve upon the Switch on their next console. They would be stupid to change the name again, but this is Nintendo we're talking about, so we'll need to be ready for anything.
We need a new idea for the system after the Switch. Anyone, just shout out your ideas. I'm open to anything. Nintendo Switch 2 Electric Boogaloo. Nintendo Switch Me and You. Nintendo Game Pyramid. Super Nintendo Switch. Those are all good ideas. We're definitely getting close. Any other ideas? Nintendo Switch 2100, since that's when it will release. There it is.